Well, fellas, I know this is one that some of you guys have been waiting for. Finally got my hands on a brand new Raptor R. And let me tell you, this thing is supremely awesome. Like, this is gonna be tough for me to put into words how much I like this truck, but let's just say it jumped to the top of the list of Fords that I would want to own. I've been driving this thing around for a little bit over a week. I've had it in the mountains, I've had it on the beach, I've had it a little bit everywhere in between. Today we're out in nature here in South Carolina, just taking in nature and all its beauty. I mean, look at the size of this pine cone. This thing's enormous. But we're here for the truck, so let's talk about that. So this is brand new Raptor R. Put my pine cone down. She's got the 5.2 liter supercharged Predator V8 from a GT500. Ford was genius for putting that in there because it's probably the best engine that Ford's made in the last, I don't know how many years. It's got the best block, the best heads, the best crank. It makes ridiculous power. It's got a pretty good supercharger system on it. What's not to love? So they jammed it in a Raptor, their best-selling truck, performance truck. So yeah, I mean, it's exactly what the Gen 3 Raptor should be. This is it. She's got the 37-inch BFGs on her. Inside, yeah, it's a little bit different. You got some carbon fiber touches. I don't know how much I like these because I can't tell whether this is real carbon fiber or not. It is, if it's fake, it's so good that it looks real. If it's real, it's made so well in that it's fit and finish and everything that it looks fake. So I don't know how you want to take that, but it looks really, really good. I just hope that it's real carbon fiber because I like real stuff, not fake stuff, but it looks really good. I'm not a huge fan of this like foam with stitching that they're putting on the dashes of all these 21 and up trucks. But it is what it is. The seats, very nice, very comfortable. I've put about 1,000 miles on this truck and I've really enjoyed it. The little red R's are basically how you know she is an R model. And if you wanted to see under the hood, I'll pop it for you here. This one's in avalanche gray, and this is just about as plain as you can get one of these. It doesn't have the decal package. It doesn't have the gigantic sunroof. And honestly, if I was ordering a truck, this is the exact truck I would order. This color, this option combination, she's perfect. She's got the spray and bed liner, things like that. Stickers for $109,000. And if you're wondering why I've got it running here, it's because it's hot in the south. This little guy needs to exit. Tree frog should not be on there. It's too damn hot. But there we have the Predator V8 under the hood, fits in there perfectly. We've covered this on the channel, putting the VMP lid and intercooler brick in there. Without tuning, it doesn't make an enormous difference, but it allows you to hold on to all the power that the factory tuning will allow it to make. As soon as SCT or HB Tuners comes out with some custom tuning, she'll be in good shape. So, she's got basically all your Raptor goodies that you've come to expect, your exhaust coming out the back. It is supremely badass. And honestly, if you haven't driven one of these trucks or any other Raptors, it's tough to explain what driving this one is like. So I've driven every Raptor model Ford has ever made. Got a Bronco Raptor. I've driven Gen 1, 2, 3, every powertrain combination, including the original 5.4 V8s. And I know a lot of people have been complaining that the Raptor since Gen 2 has been missing a V8, and honestly, it has. I mean, not to take away from the 3.5 EcoBoost, but this truck is meant to have a V8 under the hood. In my opinion, that's just is what it is. The 3.5 performs well. It gets much better mileage than the old 6.2, iron lung of a V8, which was ungodly reliable, but kind of a turd power-wise. Even with the blower, those things didn't really make a ton of power. But they were a good engine as far as a truck engine goes. This is taking a high performance car engine and sticking it in a truck. And honestly, it works. It makes a ton of power. You've got over 700 horsepower here, and it's a 5,800 pound truck. It needs that power. It's making all that torque with that PD blower. You know, let's just get out and go for a drive. Let me get out of the heat and we'll talk about it a little bit more. And since I'm back in this lovely air conditioned cab, I'll give you a little bit of a tour of the inside. It's basically loaded up like any other fully equipped F-150 you would imagine. You've got your big screen, all your climate control, air conditioned seats, which is very, very important today because as you can see, it's 90 degrees at 11 o'clock in the morning. Got all your normal fold down gear selector. The console folds out. It's got a ton of room in it. Got your little storage cubby there. Ton of room in the back seat. Power points. I mean, she's about as loaded as she comes. I really like the fully digital gauge cluster. That's really nice. It's just everything you would expect in a loaded up F-150. Really, really nice rig. You can see on camera here, actually blinking if I get over here. Yeah, there. Infrared little camera deals right there on the dash. You can't see it to the naked eye, but it picks it up on camera, so that's cool. Great audio system, you know, power rear window, all that good stuff. No glass roof, which is exactly how I would order this truck. So let's go for a drive. So out on the road here, I've got her in off-road mode, which is four-wheel drive, rear diff locked. I've got my screen on so I can see what's in front of me. It's going to change the transmission shift patterns a little bit, allow it to run a little bit higher RPM. I do have the exhaust in sport mode, and when I say exhaust in sport mode, this thing has active exhaust on it, and in my opinion is by far the best exhaust sound of any Ford sold now. I mean, this thing sounds proper V8 sounds. Really, really good. The regular Raptor with the O pipe in the exhaust and everything, we've had that tested before. It sounds like a GTR, which is cool for a V6, but to me, this is what a truck is supposed to sound like. V8 power. You do get some blower whine occasionally. As far as the road we're on, we're sort of limited because of where I live on the East Coast and the width of this thing. Even the Bronco Raptor, it's the same width as an F-150 Raptor. There's just not a lot of trails. Most of them are, you know, ATV, UTV trails, maybe a Jeep trail, but these vehicles are so much bigger. This kind of stuff I can take this on around me is going to be sort of like this. It's just, there's some loose sand, but for the most part, this is compacted road. It's a little rough, but you'd never know it because this thing rides ridiculous. If you lived off a dirt road like this, this is the vehicle to own because it just eats this stuff up. As far as the purpose of this truck, it is taking the best off-road half-ton truck out there, at least in my opinion, as far as suspension, handling, braking, everything else, and giving it a dose of V8 muscle, which it needed. I love it. Honestly, if I was buying a new Ford truck and I didn't need to tow, you know, over 8,000 pounds, this would be the way to go. It can tow a little bit more than that, but you get what I'm saying. Essentially, if I was buying a half-ton, this is the one to own. It's expensive, but I have never driven a truck that made me smile like this one since my personal Gen 2 Lightning. That thing always makes me happy when I get in it. But this also creates another level of disappointment with this truck in that I'm pretty sure this thing is faster than my modified Gen 2 Lightning. Pretty sure this thing will run like low 12s, and it weighs 5,800 pounds, and it's four-wheel drive and shaped like a brick. But I kind of feel bad for my Lightning now. But I got this to drive around, so I can't complain too much. it just eats this stuff. It gets decent mileage for what it is. You're talking on the highway 16-ish miles to the gallon, maybe a little bit more, which for those specs I just laid out for you, supercharged V8, 3-ton brick, to me that's acceptable. There's nothing wrong with that. Towing, I've got a little towing review and we'll cut that in here right now. So right now we've got the camper in tow, bed's loaded down. We're going down Sandstone Mountain on 64, headed east. This is like a 7% grade, and you can tell by the trucks over here, it's a pretty hard pull up. But going down, you got brake issues. One thing that we haven't had an issue with the Raptor R is I have my foot off the brake and off the accelerator, and it's holding at like 70, 71 miles an hour at 3,600 RPM. So it's got pretty good grade braking. I'm impressed by that. It's way better than, say, even the standard Raptor, because you've got just more cylinders to fill up with air, and you know, big throttle, got a blower spinning, all that kind of stuff is just really working together for engine braking. Very nice. You know, way better than a 3.5 liter EcoBoost, but that's what you get when you have just bigger engines, and it's beautiful. But I haven't touched the brake once going down this. I mean, we're to the point where it's slowing us down. We're down to 66 now. I can actually get on the accelerator for it a little bit because it's a 70 mile an hour speed limit. Just going to let it do its thing because we're going to be taking the exit down here at the bottom of the mountain anyways. Friends coming out to play. So I wanted to give you guys a little closer look at our payload and what we're towing. So as you can see, we're squatted down a little bit in the back. Good reason for that. It's got a couple totes, you know, with a few camping supplies. This one has a small generator in it because it's July and I don't want to be without air conditioning if I happen to end up in like an off-grid area where we don't have an electrical hookup. Definitely want that. Have an inflatable 2.5 man kayak. That's awesome. We're gonna go hit the river with that shortly. And then under the kayak, I've got a load of pavers, because if somebody offers you free bricks, would you not take them if you have a truck to haul it in? So that's got the back squatted just a little bit, but I think it looks pretty good. And as for what we're towing, you guys that's been on the channel for a while have probably seen us with our Bronco Raptor towing our little 19.6 No Boundaries camper. This thing's awesome. It's like a 4,200 pound dry weight, although we are definitely heavier than that now because I knew I was going to be towing with this Raptor R, and it's rated for over 8,000 pounds. So I didn't really worry about what I was stacking in here, you know, full of water, things like that. But she is a double axle trailer. That's the big reason we bought this thing, is I wanted 2 axles on the smallest camper I could find with 2 axles, and that's this. Great setup, tows really well, and the Raptor R handles it like a champ. The only really downfall I've found though is with the rear exit exhaust, which by the way, sounds fantastic. This is the best sounding factory exhaust on a Ford that I've ever seen. I have noticed that even if you put it in quiet mode, because it comes straight out the back, I get a lot of drone off the front of the camper while towing it. So that's just a design feature, I guess. Is it a feature, is it a bug? Who knows? Most of the time you're driving around, it looks great, it sounds great, that's fine. It's just under certain throttle loads and things, if you're at like 2,800 RPMs, even if you're in quiet mode, you are going to hear that exhaust bouncing off the front of the camper. Is what it is. Doesn't really bother me that much. As far as your tow setup, standard F-150 stuff, plus you got your nice big recovery hooks here on the back, but standard F-150 hitch basically is what you're used to there. That's the only thing I've found flaw-wise with the entire vehicle, and that's a really specific set of circumstances that have to happen for you to even notice that drone on the exhaust. So would definitely not stop me from buying this. It's my new favorite Ford. So this is more my style of towing test. You can see we're headed up a 2-lane road in the mountains. It's beautiful, it's steep, it's curvy. This is how I like to tow, and actually you get more of a feel for it because you're using a broader RPM range, more speed, plus you're feeling the suspension as we go around turns. You'll have to be on the brakes occasionally. And this is probably one of the first tow test videos I haven't seen anybody else do one with a Raptor R yet. Maybe there is, but this is our trusty No Boundaries camper we've used with our Bronco Raptor. And I have to say that the Raptor R definitely blows the Bronco Raptor out of the water as far as towing, but it should, because it has essentially double the towing capability of a Bronco Raptor. The 5.2 liter V8 with a blower on it is, it's pretty good. You get a little bit of blower whine occasionally getting on it, going up these steeper grades. But this is it's really nice. It handles the weight well. We are rolling right around 12,000 pounds right now, which is well within the capabilities of the truck. We're full of water, freezer's full of meat, because I plan on hanging out here on the river. This is on the new river in West Virginia for about a week or so, and this is the best way in, at least in my opinion. As far as performance metrics and specs and everything, when I've pulled a steep long grade on the interstate with this thing, I was seeing oil pressure tickle like 97 psi, which is like race car territory. You can tell this engine is built for serious performance, and towing is definitely not the #1 performance aspect Ford was going for when they designed the Raptor R, but it does the job well. IATs, I've seen them get up around 130, 135, I think. Right now we're at like 125, only running like 3 pounds of boost. It's like the transmission's got plenty of gear, so it's just in a lower gear, letting that provide the torque you need, instead of just running high gear and throwing boost at the engine. That's a waste, and it's just hard on components, so it doesn't need to do that. But we're running 80 pounds of oil pressure. Trans temps running 210 degrees. I'm not crazy about how any of the 10R transmissions run temperature wise. I think they all run too hot. I've not seen this one get out of line with anything else I've seen, but it's just a personal preference, I guess. I need to talk to the Ford engineers and see what their thoughts are on why they think 220 degree trans temperatures are okay. Maybe I'm just old school, but I don't like seeing them over 180, and these things running unladen will run over 180. But beyond that, fuel mileage towing this camper, loaded down pretty heavy, not great, as you would expect. We're running like 7.5, 8 miles to the gallon on 93, and that hurts. But I've not had to pull over into slow lane going up any mountains, so there's a plus there. And honestly, if you are buying something like this, $110,000 supercharged off-road F-150, why are you worrying about fuel mileage? $4 a gallon gas shouldn't affect you if you're running around in something like this, especially for what you're getting out of it. This thing is super, super impressive, towing a little rig like this. So while it's definitely not a Super Duty, it's definitely confidence inspiring. A lot of that comes from the added width and the really, really good suspension this thing has. Deer. Right on the road, little fella. But it's not a Super Duty. Towing is not its primary purpose. But I can tell you, if you do hook a trailer to it, it does it very confidently and confidently. It's the best towing F-150 that I've been in, the newer F-150s. It just, like they say, It's almost like it's not even back there. That's how this feels. The suspension just handles it so well. I'm very impressed. So besides getting, 8 to 10-ish miles per gallon towing, there's nothing wrong with it. Got some bicyclists coming through here. Besides getting 8 to 10 miles per gallon towing, it is supremely competent, hugely stable, really, really nice. And somebody's bringing a BMW down this road. So that tells you how aggressive this road is. You can take your 3 Series down it. Not exactly mandatory Raptor territory, but hey, is what it is. And we'll take what we can get where we can get it. But as far as just enjoying something, this thing is great. Now, could I have done it differently? Or if I had the ability to do it differently, would I have if I had been Ford? Probably. But if you've got a world-class engine sitting around, why would you not use it? So if I had my druthers, it would have an aluminum block 7.3 Godzilla motor with a PD blower on top of it. Sure, that would be great. It would be awesome. But that, would drive up the price even more on this thing. When you've got that perfectly good, scienced out, engineering and tooling's already paid for GT500, just crank up production, make a few more. And honestly, the pricing on this thing this one is $109. Most of them are going for a little bit more than that because everybody loads them up with the glass roof and a few other little doodads. The pricing is a bit much for just that engine upgrade. Now, that's saying, I don't know how to put this. The engineering cost is paid for. They probably could have lowered the price on this. However, Ford looks at what stuff sells for, and if people are willing to pay it, that's what they're going to charge for it. And honestly, what else you're going to get with this level of performance for what they're asking for it? The price is kind of fair, so I don't blame them. And then on top of that, it's trucks like this that's keeping that company afloat. This thing is a serious moneymaker for Ford. So why wouldn't they? This thing is, it's just ridiculous fun. Got another car up through here. So it's the weekend, everybody's bringing out their German cars apparently. This one's a Volkswagen. Like I said, this is not a serious off-road road, but hey, it's what I've got to work with. And it's beautiful out here. This place is actually loaded full of black bear. You're just not going to see them when it's 90 degrees out in July. But as far as a total package, this thing is very, very well put together. I only have a couple, and I mean a couple, minor gripes with it. One is it has a 10R80, so that means it will occasionally have a 10R80 moment. Those of you who have owned a vehicle with one of those, you know what I mean, where it'll just do a weird shifty type thing. A lot of times it's between 2 and 3 or 1 and 2. Like it feels like it gets hung up for just a second. Every 10R80 equipped vehicle I've ever been in, save for one, and that was an Expedition, did that. Or something similar to that. So there's your one gripe. That can be fixed with a custom tune, which leads into gripe 2, encrypted ECU, custom tuning's not available. Trust me, it's coming, and when that happens, the floodgates on performance will be opened up. You'll see these things making 850 to the wheels. The third complaint, this is a super subset of minor complaints, is that exhaust out the rear. I've not towed with a standard F-150 Raptor, but the exhaust out the rear bounces off my little camper while I'm towing it. So even in quiet mode, if you are pulling a slight grade or something, you downshift and you're running like 2300 RPMs, the drone is significant as you're getting that reverberation off that flat front of whatever you're towing. So that's kind of a pain. Other than that, I have absolutely no complaints about this thing. It handles beautifully, it brakes beautifully, it's got all the power in the world. I mean, it's just stupidly powerful. Now, would I want it to be more powerful if I could have it? Yes, I would. But that's what the aftermarket's for, and they can, trust me, they'll fix that. All I can say in the end is, yes, I would absolutely buy one of these things. If you do not have your name on the list for one already, you're probably looking at an 18-month wait at a minimum, if you can even get an allocation for one. But if you are on the list and you're waiting for yours, trust me, you will not be disappointed. This thing is the ultimate half-ton truck that I've driven. I've not driven anything better than this. I don't know how else to put it. It is seriously just that good. And you want proof of that? That is just ridiculous. Get that GT500 like blower whine off-road. It's hooking up. You got the locker in the back, the limited slip in the front. It's great. I don't know what else to tell you. If you can swing it, get one of these things. It is that good. Seriously, that good. So I was cutting together this video and I just realized I forgot to really talk about the styling of this truck. And what I really like about this particular one is it doesn't have any of the graphics on it. So really, the only way to tell that this is an R model is like the red R on the hood, the red tow hooks, things like that, the very subtle styling cues. And of course, this little power bulge is larger than on a regular Raptor. One of the things I would change though is if I owned one of these things or just a regular Raptor, I think Anderson Composites either has one or is coming out with a carbon fiber one of these. This much just black plastic exposed to the sun. I know this is probably going to end up changing color, so I'll probably switch that to carbon fiber. I have seen guys paint these, and I think that looks pretty good too. So that's another option. But as far as the rest of the styling, it's pretty much standard Raptor, but with a few tweaks. So this is, I don't know really how to describe this other than from a distance, it looks sort of cheap, but up close you realize how much attention to detail there is in this front end. So it just looks like a black grille and a black bumper, right? If you get up really close, you can see this sort of piano black is more of a tuxedo black. It's tough to see on camera, but there's a lot of metallic in this, as well as the bumper. The bumper is not just flat XL work truck black. There's a very, very small metallic in this. Very fine metallic, I guess you would say. So they really spent a lot of money on that, and it ends up looking sort of like base modelish, but that's really high-end stuff. The other thing I really like about this styling-wise is, so on GT500s and Mustangs, and even the Bronco Raptor, the cooling package has to have some efficiencies worked into it, I guess you would say. For fuel economy, things like this. Ford realized this is not going to be your fuel economy leading vehicle. It's not going to really help with the CAFE numbers, and we've got a big honking V8 under the hood. We need to get as much air in as possible. So if you notice on, like say a GT500 Mustang, a lot of these little holes in the grille would be filled. On this, every single one is open to get as much air into that radiator as possible. And the same deal down here with the heat exchanger. You know, on say a Bronco Raptor, it has active grille shutters and a few other things. Maybe some of these holes would be filled in. You see that on a lot of different vehicles, but not on this. Everything is wide open, and you can actually see they reused, you see that scalloping in this plastic back here? This is a reused part that they just did not put the active grille shutters in. You can actually see the holes where the shutters would mount. And it's just not in there because they want as much air as possible going to that heat exchanger to keep that supercharger cool. Other than that, it's styling like you'd expect from any other Raptor, which is, I think, looks great. This is exactly how I would order my truck. If I was gonna order one of these, even a standard Raptor, I'd get it no graphics, no glass roof. This is the truck I would order. So final thoughts, and it's kind of tough to give any final thoughts without them just sounding like I'm fanboying out on this thing. But basically I am. Like, I really like this truck. It's my favorite Ford that I have driven in a long, long time. And trust me, I've driven a lot of Fords. I would be very happy to have this thing in my garage. I would probably start messing with that blower as soon as I can get some tuning, and I would have it making more power. Does it need more power? No, but I mean, if you can get it, why not take it? That's the way I look at it. If I can get more power out of this thing, I'm going to do it. I know with some custom tuning, this thing is going to put up some ridiculous numbers. So 37s look great. I like the wheels. Interior is very nice. It's the most comfortable thing on the road that I've ever driven. I mean, it just soaks up every bump. You can do 45 miles an hour on a dirt road, which you've probably seen cut into this video in some places. But it's as good as it gets on the road as far as an F-150 goes. The steering's great, the handling is great, brakes are great, rides comfortably. What more can you ask for? Yeah, it'd be great if it got 30 miles to the gallon. Well, it's just not. So that's physics. I don't mind that. So if I had the opportunity, I'd buy one. Unfortunately, I've got way too many cars in the garage as it is, and not enough garage space to put this big honking thing in it. So might have to hold off. But I do have some Raptor plans in the future. You could say they're sort of inspired by the Raptor R, but that's for another video way on down the road. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you ever get a chance to drive one of these things, it's awesome. It does not take away from the regular F-150 Raptor. This just adds to it. It adds to that Raptor legacy. Great job, Ford. Can't wait to drive the next one.